Hey guys, tonight we're going on a journey, a very long journey, back in time to a land whispered about in legends, a place where the sands hold more secrets than the stars above. Now, before we begin our quiet descent into the past, let's just take a moment to settle in. Dim the lights, if you haven't already. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft rhythmic hum, or pull a cozy blanket up to your chin. Let your body sink into whatever surface is supporting you, feeling the gentle release of any tension held in your shoulders, your jaw, your brow. Take a slow, deep breath in, letting your belly expand, and then release it, letting go of any thoughts or worries from your day. This is your time, a quiet space just for you. And as you get comfortable, if you feel so inclined, let me know in the comments where you are tuning in from and what time it is for you. It is always a wonderful thought, knowing we're all sharing this peaceful moment across different time zones under different skies. And if you genuinely enjoy what we do here, a gentle tap on the like button and a subscription would mean the world, but only if it feels right to you. No pressure at all. Tonight, we're not just reading a history book, we're stepping through a veil into the very heart of an empire carved from stone and dreams. We're venturing to a place where time itself was redefined, where the sun was a god and the river, life. Tonight, we're journeying to ancient Egypt, a civilization that defied the relentless march of millennia, leaving behind a legacy that still echoes across the ages. A place so utterly captivating, so profoundly mysterious, that even now its untold stories whisper on the desert wind. We're going to uncover 24 of its most timeless secrets, etched not just in hieroglyphs, but into the very landscape, into the very soul of humanity's quest for eternity. So, let's ease into tonight's journey together, and let the whispers of the past gently guide you towards a tranquil night. Imagine yourself standing on the banks of the mighty Nile as the sun begins its slow, majestic descent towards the horizon. The sky, a canvas of deep oranges, soft purples, and shimmering gold, stretches endlessly above you. The air, still warm from the day's embrace, carries a subtle scent, a mix of dry earth, the sweet perfume of the river, and something ancient, something that has lingered here for thousands of years. The quiet lapping of the water against the reeds is the only sound, a gentle, rhythmic whisper that seems to speak of forgotten ages. Ahead of you, silhouetted against the fiery glow of the twilight, rise the colossal forms of the pyramids. Not merely structures, but monuments to an unfathomable past, their edges softened by the fading light, their ancient stones absorbing the last rays of the sun, turning them into beacons of shimmering gold. Each colossal block, a testament to an ambition so grand it defies the simple passage of time. The wind, a soft breath across the vast expanse of the desert, rustles past your ears, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible hum, like the collective memory of generations of pharaohs, priests, and common folk who once walked this very ground. It's a sound that doesn't demand attention but invites it, a quiet invitation to listen to secrets that have been guarded by the sands for millennia. This place, this ancient land, is not just a geographical location. It is a repository of human ingenuity, spiritual devotion, and an unyielding will to endure. The Egyptians didn't just build cities, they sculpted eternity. They didn't just live, they prepared for a life beyond, a grand cosmic journey that shaped every waking moment. They mastered the arts of the visible and the invisible, intertwining the mundane with the divine, the ephemeral with the everlasting. Their civilization, rooted deeply in the fertile silt of the Nile, blossomed under the relentless desert sun, giving birth to wonders that even today, millennia later, leave us in awe. They built structures that touched the heavens, developed a complex writing system that spoke the language of the gods, and embraced a worldview that saw life, death, and rebirth as an eternal, beautiful cycle. We are about to step into this world, not as distant observers, but as quiet guests, invited to witness the echoes of their existence. We will gently peel back the layers of sand and myth, uncovering 24 of their most profound, most intriguing secrets. Each one a thread in the rich tapestry of a civilization that understood the profound interplay between humanity and the cosmos. From the divine nature of their pharaohs to the cryptic wisdom of their hieroglyphs, from the simple rhythms of their daily lives along the river to their elaborate preparations for the afterlife, we will explore the heart of what made ancient Egypt so timeless. So, let your mind drift, let your breath deepen, and allow the ancient call from the desert to lead you into a realm of wonder and tranquility. The ancient Egyptians perceived their world, and indeed the entire cosmos, through a profound duality. It wasn't simply a matter of good and evil, but rather an intricate balance of order and chaos, life and death, fertility and barrenness. This understanding was quite literally written into their landscape, shaped by the very ground beneath their feet and the sky above their heads. They called the fertile life-giving strip of land along the Nile Kemet. Imagine it now, a lush, vibrant green ribbon, stretching as far as the eye can see, nourished by the annual overflow of the Nile. This was the Black Land, named for the rich, dark, alluvial silt that the river generously deposited each year. This land was their very essence of existence, the source of all sustenance, where barley grew tall, where papyrus flourished, and where every breath of life was drawn. Feel the imagined softness of that dark, damp soil beneath your bare feet, cool and yielding, teeming with unseen life. Picture the vibrant greens of the young crops, swaying gently in the river breeze, reflecting the deep blues of the sky. This was the realm of order, of creation, of vibrant growth. It was where homes were built, where communities thrived, where the gods smiled upon their people. Kemet was a sanctuary, a haven, a place where the rhythm of life beat strong and clear, synchronized with the predictable cycles of the great river. It was the land of Maat, the cosmic principle of truth, justice, and harmony, an ordered universe where the sun rose faithfully each morning, and the Nile delivered its bounty each season. But beyond this verdant strip, just a stone's throw away, lay its stark opposite, the Desert. This was the Red Land, the vast, boundless expanse of the desert. Feel the imagined bite of its dry, scorching air, the sensation of fine, gritty sand swirling around your ankles, a relentless, unforgiving landscape stretching to the hazy horizon. The Desert was a realm of barrenness, of stark, dramatic ochre, and burnt umber, reflecting the fierce, unrelenting power of the sun. This was the domain of chaos, of untamed wilderness, where the gods of destruction and danger held sway. It was a place of wild, often dangerous animals, of harsh, unpredictable winds, and of the profound silence that spoke of eternity and oblivion. The ancient Egyptians saw the Desert not just as physical space, but as a metaphysical boundary, the edge of their known world, a place of death and transition. It was where they buried their dead, believing that the dry preservative sands would protect the bodies on their journey to the afterlife. It was a place to be respected, perhaps feared, but also understood as an integral part of their existence. Without the red land, the black land could not be. Without the chaos, there could be no true appreciation for order. This inherent duality, this powerful contrast between the black soil of life and the red sands of death, permeated every aspect of their thought, their art, their religion, and their very being. It was a constant reminder of the delicate balance that held their world together. A cosmic dance between creation and dissolution, a quiet whisper that even in the greatest abundance, the vastness of the unknown always lay just beyond the horizon. Let this ancient understanding of their world settle in your mind, a deep sense of balance, a quiet recognition of the interplay of all things. In the profound silence of the ancient Egyptian night, long before the glow of artificial lights obscured the heavens, the stars were not just distant pinpricks of light, they were living entities, guides and prophets. Imagine yourself lying on a simple reed mat, perhaps on the rooftop of a mud brick home, the cool night air washing over you. Above, the sky is a breathtaking expanse, a velvet curtain liberally studded with diamonds, each constellation a story, each star a potential message from the gods. This wasn't merely a beautiful sight for the ancient Egyptians. It was their clock, their calendar, and their sacred almanac. Among all the celestial wonders, one star held a particularly hallowed place, Sirius. They knew it as Sopdet, the brightest star in their night sky, a shimmering blue-white jewel that commanded reverence and meticulous observation. Listen now to the slow, steady rhythm of the night, perhaps the distant call of an owl or the soft rustling of palm fronds. This was the soundscape of their ancient astronomers, their priests, scientists, who dedicated their lives to tracking the precise movements of the heavens. The secret of Sirius lay in its unique celestial dance, known as its heliacal rising. Picture it, for about 70 days each year, Sirius would disappear from the night sky, hidden by the brilliant glare of the sun. Then, just before dawn, on a specific sacred day, it would reappear. Imagine the anticipation, the hushed vigilance of those early morning hours as the sky begins to lighten just a fraction, a whisper of the sun's return. And then, there it is, a faint, almost imperceptible twinkle low on the eastern horizon, just moments before the sun itself makes its entrance. This was Sopdet reborn. This wasn't just a pretty star appearing. It was a cosmic signal, a divine promise. The ancient Egyptians observed that the heliacal rising of Sirius almost perfectly coincided with a phenomenon that was absolutely vital to their existence: the annual inundation of the Nile. Feel the imagined thrill, the quiet relief, as this celestial beacon confirmed the coming of the life-giving flood. The river, swelling from rains far to the south, would soon burst its banks, gently depositing its rich, fertile silt across the Kemet, transforming the parched land into a verdant paradise, ensuring another year of abundant harvests. Based on this meticulous observation of Sopdet's return, the ancient Egyptians crafted what is widely considered one of the earliest and most accurate calendars in human history, a 365-day calendar. They divided their year into 3 seasons, each intrinsically linked to the Nile cycle: Akhet, inundation; Peret, growth; and Shemu, harvest. This calendar was not just a tool for tracking days, it was a sacred framework, harmonizing human life with the divine order of the cosmos. It allowed them to plan their agricultural cycles with remarkable precision, predict the flood's arrival, and organize their religious festivals, ensuring that their rituals and offerings were made at the most auspicious times. So, as you drift deeper into relaxation, imagine the quiet wisdom of those ancient sky watchers, their eyes fixed on the distant stars, their understanding of the universe woven into the very fabric of their daily lives. The reappearance of Sopdet was more than just an astronomical event. It was the sacred signal of renewal, of abundance, and of the new year itself. It was the universe whispering its promise of life, a gentle reassurance from the heavens that order would prevail, and the cycle of existence would continue, forever guided by the unwavering light of the stars. Let the image of that brilliant star rising in the pre-dawn sky, a symbol of hope and precision, soothe your mind and guide you towards a truly restful sleep. The sun dips lower, painting the western desert in hues of soft ochre and muted gold. A gentle breeze whispers across the vast expanse, carrying the scent of ancient sands and the faint, sweet memory of civilizations that once thrived under this boundless sky. You can almost hear the soft rustle of papyrus along the unseen Nile, the distant call of a heron, a timeless echo in the twilight. For the people of this land, the river was not merely a source of water. It was the artery of the cosmos, a living God, sustaining all life. And at its heart stood a figure of paramount importance, a living embodiment of the divine on earth, the Pharaoh. When you consider the Pharaoh, it's easy to imagine a king, a ruler of lands and people, but in ancient Egypt the concept stretched far beyond mere earthly royalty. The Pharaoh was a bridge, a vital conduit between the mortal realm and the swirling, enigmatic world of the gods. From the very moment of his coronation, draped in ceremonial robes adorned with crowns that symbolized both Upper and Lower Egypt, the pharaoh was seen as the physical manifestation of Horus, the falcon god. Imagine the sharp, piercing gaze of a falcon soaring high above the desert, its wings catching the golden light. This was Horus, the celestial hunter, the avenger, the protector of the innocent. And within the living pharaoh that divine essence resided. He walked among his people, but his spirit connected to the heavens. His decisions were not just political decrees. They were acts imbued with divine will, meant to guide the cosmic order. When he spoke, it was Horus speaking. When he led, it was Horus leading. His health, his strength, his very breath were intertwined with the prosperity and stability of the entire nation. The intricate rituals of daily court life, the grand processions, the construction of monumental temples and tombs, all serve to reinforce this divine connection. You might picture a moment of quiet contemplation in a temple, the air thick with incense, the soft chanting of priests echoing from the painted walls. Here, the pharaoh would offer sacrifices, not as a mere worshipper, but as the high priest conversing directly with his divine brethren, ensuring their favor, channeling their blessings down to the fertile black lands of Egypt. His reign was a constant, deliberate act of maintaining a delicate balance, a sacred harmony known as Ma'at. Ma'at was more than just justice or truth. It was the fundamental order of the universe, the very fabric of existence. It was the rhythm of the Nile's inundation, the predictable path of the sun, the cycle of life and death, the balance between chaos and order. The pharaoh, as Horus incarnate, was the earthly guardian of Ma'at. Every judgment he made, every law he enacted, every temple he consecrated, was a reaffirmation of this cosmic principle. Should the pharaoh falter, should Ma'at be disturbed, then the very foundations of Egypt, indeed the entire cosmos, risked crumbling into the primordial chaos from which it had arisen. But the pharaoh's divine journey did not end with his mortal life. Upon his death, a profound transformation occurred. The living embodiment of Horus, the vibrant, soaring falcon, would then merge with Osiris, the lord of the underworld. Osiris, with his green skin symbolizing resurrection and fertility, was the god who had suffered death but achieved rebirth, ruling over the realm of the blessed dead and ensuring the cycle of vegetation. When the pharaoh died, he became Osiris. He embarked on his own journey through the Duat, the perilous underworld, guided by the very deities he had represented in life. This union was the ultimate promise of eternal life, not just for the pharaoh, but, by extension, for all of Egypt. His successful passage through the afterlife guaranteed the continued flow of the Nile, the rising of the sun, and the enduring reign of Ma'at. It was a promise whispered in the intricate carvings of tomb walls, painted in the vibrant murals of sarcophagi, a profound belief that intertwined the fate of a man with the destiny of the gods and the very pulse of the universe. To sleep now, under the watchful gaze of the desert moon, is to rest in the shadow of these divine kings, whose spirits, even now, might be traversing the starry pathways, ever vigilant. Imagine a scene from an ancient Egyptian court, perhaps a grand ceremony unfolding within the sun-drenched halls of a temple. You might observe the pharaoh, resplendent in gold and linen, his form commanding attention. Yet something peculiar catches your eye. Extending from his chin, a stiff, elongated, often braided beard, not of natural hair, but meticulously crafted, often in gold or lapis lazuli. This isn't just a fashion statement, nor is it a simple sign of masculinity. In ancient Egypt, this false beard was a potent symbol, one that transcended gender and proclaimed a profound truth. The wearer was no ordinary mortal, but a living god. Consider the remarkable figure of Hatshepsut, her story as one of sheer willpower and strategic brilliance. She began her reign as regent for her young stepson, Thutmose III, but swiftly ascended to the full title of pharaoh. Now, you might picture a queen, regal and feminine, but Hatshepsut, to fully embody the divine authority of her office, needed to adopt all the traditional regalia of a male pharaoh. This included the double crown, the royal kilt, and most notably, the ceremonial false beard. Look closely at her statues. Observe the detailed carvings that survive from her majestic mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. You'll see her depicted with a broad, muscled chest, often without breasts, and always, without fail, with that rigid, braided beard. This wasn't an attempt to deceive or to become a man. It was a visual declaration of her divine status. The beard and its symbolic weight was less about being male and more about being Sindi divine, a direct link to the potent, awe-inspiring power of the gods themselves. The beard was called the Sumdiyu Shapti, or Inbot, 3 Wu, YT3 Wu, and its origins were deeply rooted in Egyptian mythology. It was associated with Osiris, the god of the underworld and resurrection, who was often depicted with a long, curved beard. By wearing this sacred appendage, the pharaoh, whether male or female, symbolically connected themselves to Osiris's eternal power, his mastery over life and death, and his role in the cycles of renewal. It was a tangible representation of their divine right to rule, an essential ritual prop that underscored their unique position as the chosen intermediary between humanity and the pantheon. This carefully crafted beard was not soft or flowing. It was typically stiff, straight, or intricately plaited, extending beyond the chin, sometimes with a gentle upward curve at the end, further differentiating it from natural hair. It would have been made from metal, wood, or even linen, often adorned with precious materials, signifying its immense value and sacred purpose. Imagine the intricate craftsmanship required to produce such a piece. The hours spent by skilled artisans, shaping, polishing, and detailing every strand, knowing that it would adorn the face of a god king or god queen. So, when you see images of Hatshepsut, or indeed any pharaoh with this distinctive beard, allow your mind to drift beyond simple gender roles. Picture the weight of divinity that she or he carried, the immense responsibility of maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic order. The beard was a silent, powerful statement, a constant reminder to the people, and perhaps even to the pharaoh themselves, of their sacred duty, their connection to the eternal, and their embodiment of divine power. It allowed Hatshepsut to navigate the complex world of power in ancient Egypt, not by denying her femininity, but by embracing a symbol that transcended it, asserting her divine authority in a way that left no room for doubt. It is a subtle detail, yet one that speaks volumes about the profound layered symbolism that permeated every aspect of ancient Egyptian life, transforming the mundane into the sacred, and elevating a human ruler into a divine presence. As you drift deeper into relaxation, let the quiet strength of these symbols guide your thoughts. As your mind drifts further into the ancient landscape, you might notice something else striking about the visual world of the Egyptians, their gods. While we often imagine deities in purely human form, the Egyptian pantheon presents a fascinating fusion, a gallery of beings with human bodies crowned by the heads of animals. Think of Anubis, his dark jackal head observing with an almost eerie stillness, or the elegant, watchful ibis head of Thoth, god of wisdom and writing. This isn't just artistic whim, it's a profound reflection of the ancient Egyptian worldview, a code through which they understood the divine essence of the world around them. The Egyptians were astute observers of nature, their lives intimately entwined with the animals that shared their desert and riverine environment. They didn't see animals as lesser beings. Instead, they believed that certain creatures embodied specific, core characteristics or powers that resonated with the attributes of their gods. By giving a deity an animal's head, they were not demeaning the god, but rather providing the most intuitive and powerful visual shorthand for that god's domain and character. Take Anubis, for example, the jackal-headed god. The jackal was a creature of the desert, often seen near cemeteries scavenging. To the Egyptians, this animal's natural habitat and behavior linked it directly to death, to graves, and to the liminal spaces between life and the afterlife. Thus, Anubis became the god of mummification, the guardian of tombs, and the guide of souls through the perilous journey to the Juat. His jackal head wasn't merely decorative. It was a potent symbol of his role in the funerary rituals, his vigilant protection of the deceased, and his ability to navigate the shadowy realms of death. Picture the quiet dignity of Anubis, standing sentinel over a tomb, his jackal ears alert, his gaze unwavering, a silent promise of guidance for the departed. Then there is Thoth, often depicted with the head of an ibis, or occasionally a baboon. The ibis, a long-legged wading bird, was known for its methodical movements and its patient searching for food in the marshes, much like a scholar seeking knowledge. The baboon, in its intelligence and social structure, also symbolized wisdom. For the Egyptians, Thoth was the scribe of the gods, the arbiter of disputes, the inventor of writing and language, the keeper of sacred knowledge. His ibis head, with its distinctive curved beak, perfectly encapsulated his role as a meticulous record keeper, a dispenser of wisdom, and a patron of scribes and scholars. Imagine the gentle scratch of a reed pen on papyrus, the quiet hum of a mind absorbed in ancient texts, under the watchful, knowing eyes of Thoth. Other gods also illustrate this principle. Sekhmet, the fearsome goddess of war and healing, was given the head of a lioness, a creature known for its ferocious power, its protective maternal instincts, and its association with the scorching desert sun. Bastet, the benevolent goddess of home, fertility, and joy, took the elegant head of a cat, an animal cherished for its grace, its domesticity, and its ability to ward off vermin. Horus, the falcon, headed god of the sky and kingship, embodied the keen vision, swift flight, and regal bearing of the falcon. Each animal represented a specific quality, a precise attribute that resonated deeply within the Egyptian psyche. This intricate system of animal symbolism allowed the Egyptians to create a rich and complex tapestry of divine beings, each immediately recognizable and understood through their hybrid forms. It blended the familiar world of animals with the awe-inspiring mysteries of the gods, making the divine both accessible and profoundly sacred. It speaks to a deep respect for the natural world, a belief that the gods manifested not just in human ideals, but in the raw, primal power and specific characteristics of the creatures that shared their existence. So, as you visualize these ancient deities, allow the images of their animal heads to speak to you. Hear the silent message of their form, the watchful jackal, the wise ibis, the fierce lioness, the graceful cat. Each one is a key, unlocking a deeper understanding of the god's nature, their role in the cosmos, and the intimate connection between the natural world and the divine in the heart of ancient Egypt. Let these powerful symbolic forms gently guide you towards a tranquil and restful sleep. Imagine, if you will, the slow, rhythmic flow of the Nile, a constant for thousands of years. Its waters have mirrored the sun, the moon, and the unwavering procession of gods. For nearly 2 millennia, the pantheon of ancient Egypt stood as solid and as unyielding as the granite of Aswan. From the great Amun, Ra, king of the gods, to the gentle Hathor, goddess of love, and the wise Thoth, keeper of knowledge, their divine forms were etched into every temple wall, invoked in every prayer, and woven into the very fabric of existence. The world was a complex tapestry of divine influences, each deity holding a piece of the cosmic order, or Thurvanmatu. You understood your place within this grand design, a comforting certainty in a world full of unknowns. But then the sun shifted, not in the sky, but in the heart and mind of one man, a pharaoh whose very name would eventually be chiseled from the stone, as if he had never been. Enter Amenhotep IV, a ruler who inherited the grandest empire of his time, but who yearned for a different kind of glory, a different kind of truth. He saw not a multitude of gods, but one singular, radiant power, the Aten, the visible disk of the sun itself. not merely its creator or its manifestation, but the sole unadulterated source of all life, all energy, all light. Close your eyes for a moment and picture that brilliant, all-encompassing disk. Imagine it radiating its golden rays, each ray ending in a tiny hand, bestowing life, warmth, and sustenance. This was the Aten as Akhenaten envisioned it. A god without form, without animal head or human body, just pure, divine light. It was a radical departure, a theological earthquake that would shake the very foundations of Egyptian belief. The old gods, with their intricate myths and rituals, their powerful priesthoods and vast temple estates, were suddenly deemed obsolete. Their images were defaced, their names removed, their worship suppressed. Amenhotep IV was merely worshipping the Aten. He became its prophet, its sole intermediary on earth. He even changed his own name to Akhenaten, meaning effective for the Aten, or living spirit of Aten. His wife, the famously beautiful Nefertiti, stood by his side, an equal partner in this solar revolution, often depicted with a striking, elongated neck and a unique crown, reflecting the artistic innovations of their reign. He moved the capital, leaving the ancient, god-filled city of Thebes behind. He chose a virgin site in the middle of the desert, a place untouched by the old deities, a tabula rasa for his new vision. He called it Akhetaten, horizon of the Aten, known to us today as Amarna. Picture this city rising from the sands, not gradually over centuries, but with an almost frenetic pace, driven by a pharaoh's singular obsession. Its buildings were open to the sunlight, its temples no longer dark, enclosed sanctuaries, but vast, unroofed courtyards where the sun's rays could fall directly onto the altars. The art of this period, the Amarna style, reflected this shift. It was more fluid, more naturalistic, even strangely intimate, depicting the royal family and scenes of domestic bliss, bathed in the life-giving light of the Aten. But this revolution was deeply unpopular, particularly with the powerful priesthood of Amun, whose vast wealth and influence were threatened. The people, accustomed to their familiar gods and rituals, found the abstract, distant Aten difficult to connect with. Imagine being told that the comforting deities of your ancestors, the ones who protected your family, guided your harvest, and ensured your passage to the afterlife, were suddenly false. It was a terrifying, disorienting concept. The very concept of the afterlife, so central to Egyptian thought, became uncertain under the Aten's exclusive reign. Akhenaten's rule was a time of internal turmoil, as the pharaoh focused intensely on religious reform, perhaps neglecting the empire's external affairs. After his death, the backlash was swift and brutal. His son, the young Tutankhaten, soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, reverting to the old gods, especially Amun. The capital was moved back to Thebes, and the old order was restored with a vengeance. Akhenaten's city, Akhetaten, was abandoned, its stones scavenged for new constructions, its temples systematically dismantled. His name, along with Nefertiti's and the very image of the Aten, were systematically erased from monuments across Egypt. It was a deliberate act of historical obliteration, an attempt to make it seem as if this heretic pharaoh had never existed, as if his solar revolution was but a nightmare quickly forgotten. Sleep now, and let the gentle desert winds whisper through the empty halls of Amarna, carrying the echoes of a pharaoh's grand, but ultimately ephemeral, dream. The sun still shines, But the multitude of gods, the intricate balance of Tunimati returned to reign once more, reminding us that even the most powerful visions can sometimes be swallowed by the sands of time. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, drift deeper into the quietude, and let your mind wander to the silent, carved walls of ancient Egyptian temples. Imagine standing before them, tracing with your fingers the intricate patterns, the stylized birds, the regal human figures, the curious geometric shapes. For centuries, perhaps even millennia, these speaking symbols were a profound mystery, a beautiful enigma that whispered of a lost language, a forgotten wisdom. Many imagine them as simple pictures, each symbol representing the object it depicted, a bird for a bird, an eye for an eye. And while there is a kernel of truth in that, the reality is far more complex, far more elegant, and infinitely more fascinating. The ancient Egyptians themselves called their writing system Thaimendutnadcher, which translates most beautifully as the words of the gods. They believed these symbols were a divine gift bestowed upon humanity by the wise Thoth, the ibis-headed god of knowledge, moon, and writing. Imagine the reverence with which a scribe would approach a papyrus scroll, a chisel would touch a stove's wall, or a brush would adorn a tomb chamber. This was not just writing, it was an act of sacred communication, a way to converse with the divine, to preserve the king's decrees, to record the annals of history, and most importantly, to guide the soul through the perilous journey of the afterlife. Let's gently unravel this complexity, piece by silent piece. Hieroglyphs are not merely pictograms. They are a sophisticated system that functions on three primary levels, often intertwining within a single word or sentence. First, there are the Sundi logogram Suti, or dareograms. These are the symbols that do indeed represent the object they depict, or a concept directly associated with it. For example, a drawing of a sun disk could mean sun or day or time. A picture of a seated man might mean man or person. A pair of legs could mean to walk or to come. When you see these symbols, you are seeing a direct visual representation of an idea. It is like a secret shorthand, a universal sign language etched in stone. But then the language begins to hum with sound. The second level consists of phoneograms or phonetic signside. This is where hieroglyphs become truly remarkable. Many symbols, instead of representing an entire word or concept, represent sounds much like the letters in our alphabet. Imagine a picture of an owl in ancient Egyptian. The word for owl might have contained a certain consonant sound. Let's say M. So, that owl symbol could then be used to represent the mom sound, in other words, entirely divorced from its original meaning of owl. Similarly, a picture of a mouth could represent the rar sound, a basket the K sound, and so on. There were signs for single consonants, for two consonants, and even for three. It is not an alphabet in our modern sense, but a rich collection of phonetic building blocks, patiently assembled to form words. You could spell out words by combining these sound symbols, making the language incredibly versatile. And finally, to resolve any ambiguity, to whisper the exact nuance of meaning, there are the person determinatives, seers. These are silent signs placed at the end of a word that are not meant to be pronounced. Their sole purpose is to clarify the meaning of the preceding phonetic signs. For instance, if you had a sequence of phonetic symbols that could spell out scribe, to write, or writing, a small determinative symbol depicting a man with a scroll and a pen would immediately tell you that the word refers to scribe. If the determinative was a papyrus roll, it might mean writing. If it was a pair of legs, it could signify to walk. These determinatives were like silent punctuation marks, guiding the reader, preventing confusion, ensuring that the divine message was perfectly understood. Imagine a puzzle where each piece is both a picture and a sound, and then another silent piece guides you to the correct interpretation. This is the layered beauty of hieroglyphs. They could be written from right to left, left to right, or even top to bottom. To know which way to read, you simply followed the direction the human or animal figures were facing. 30. They always looked towards the beginning of the text. So, when you see those exquisite carvings on temple walls, or the delicate brushstrokes on papyrus scrolls, remember that you are looking at more than just art. You are seeing nature, the words of the gods, a language meticulously crafted, imbued with both visual poetry and phonetic precision, designed to speak across millennia, to whisper the secrets of a civilization that understood the profound power of a symbol, patiently awaiting rediscovery. Let the complexity of these ancient symbols gently lull you into a restful slumber. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Now, as your mind settles into a deeper calm, let's turn our attention to one of history's most pivotal artifacts, a silent stone that finally gave voice to an entire civilization that had been mute for nearly 2,000 years. Picture, if you will, the bustling, dusty landscape of 18th century Egypt, a land under the watchful eye of Napoleon Bonaparte's expedition. It was the summer of 1799. French soldiers, busy fortifying a crumbling old fort near the port city of Rosetta, were dismantling an ancient wall to make way for new defenses. The sun beat down, the air thick with the smell of sand and sweat, the rhythmic clang of picks echoing across the desert. And then a discovery, not a glittering treasure of gold, not a majestic tomb filled with wonders, but a dark, irregular slab of granitoid stone. It was large, almost 4 feet tall, too, and 1/2 feet wide, and nearly a foot thick, heavy and imposing. But what made it extraordinary were the inscriptions etched onto its surface. Not one, but 3 distinct scripts, neatly divided into separate sections. The top script was clearly hieroglyphic, those beautiful, enigmatic words of the gods that adorned every temple wall, but whose meaning had been lost for centuries. Below that, a more cursive, flowing script, later identified as Demotic, the everyday script of ancient Egypt, and at the bottom, perfectly legible to the scholars of the time, was ancient Greek. Imagine the quiet thrill that must have rippled through the French scholars. A single stone bearing the same decree in 3 different languages. It was like finding a universal translator, a linguistic key to unlock the secrets of a civilization. This wasn't merely a stone, it was a bridge across time, a potential conversation starter with pharaohs and priests, with queens and commoners. The British seized the stone in 1801, and it found its way to the British Museum, where it remains a star attraction today. But its journey was just beginning. For 2 decades, scholars across Europe wrestled with its secrets. The Greek text was quickly translated, revealing the stone to be a decree issued by a council of priests in 96 BC, affirming the royal cult of the young Ptolemy Vif. The challenge now was to match the known Greek names and phrases to the unknown hieroglyphic and demotic characters. Many tried, but it was a brilliant and persistent young Frenchman named Jean-François Champollion who, through sheer intellectual tenacity and an almost obsessive dedication, finally cracked the code. He was a linguistic prodigy, fluent in many ancient languages, including Coptic, the direct descendant of ancient Egyptian, still spoken in fragmented forms by Egyptian Christians. This knowledge would prove crucial. Champollion began by focusing on the hieroglyphic cartouches stipend, the oval enclosures that often surrounded royal names. He correctly surmised that these contained the names of pharaohs. By comparing the cartouches to the Greek text, he identified the names Ptolemy and Cleopatra. He noticed that some hieroglyphs seemed to represent sounds much like an alphabet, while others were ideographic. He hypothesized that the hieroglyphs, particularly when spelling out foreign names like Ptolemy, were being used phonetically. Imagine him there, bent over meticulous drawings of the stone, cross-referencing, comparing, testing, his mind alight with the challenge. The quiet scratch of his pen on papyrus, the flickering candlelight in his study, as he pieced together this monumental puzzle. He realized that the demotic script was essentially a more cursive, everyday version of the hieroglyphs. He worked backward and forward, systematically identifying phonetic values for the hieroglyphs. The true breakthrough came in 1822, by comparing the hieroglyphic name for Ptolemy on the Rosetta Stone with another cartouche from a temple at Abu Simbel, which he correctly assumed contained the name Ramses. He was able to definitively prove that hieroglyphs were a complex system combining both phonetic and ideographic signs. The speaking symbols truly spoke. They represented sounds but also ideas and had silent determinatives to clarify meaning. This was more than just deciphering a language. It was like awakening a sleeping giant. Suddenly, the vast libraries of ancient Egyptian texts, suti, the inscriptions on tombs, the sacred papyri, the monumental stelae, all began to yield their secrets. History, religion, daily life, science, medicine, literature, all that had been locked away behind the beautiful but impenetrable hieroglyphs, now became accessible. The Rosetta Stone didn't just translate a text, it translated an entire civilization, allowing it to speak to us across the chasm of time, its voice clear and profound. Let the weight of that knowledge settle gently upon you, the extraordinary journey of a silent stone found in the sands, unlocking the very heart of ancient Egypt. Sleep and dream of the forgotten words that now echo across the ages. The year is 1922. The air in the Valley of the Kings is thick with the dust of millennia, but also with an electric anticipation. You can almost feel the collective breath held as Howard Carter, with Lord Carnarvon by his side, peers through a small breach and a sealed doorway. He is asked if he sees anything. His answer, delivered in a voice trembling with the weight of history, echoes through the ages. Yes, wonderful things, and indeed they were. The tomb of the boy king Tutankhamun lay before them, almost untouched, a dazzling time capsule from ancient Egypt, brimming with gold and jewels, statues and chariots, the silent testament of a civilization's belief in eternity. But almost immediately, as the world marveled at the treasures unearthed from KV-62, another narrative began to unfurl. One whispered in hushed tones, then shouted from newspaper headlines, the legend of the Pharaoh's curse. Lord Carnarvon, the expedition's wealthy financier, who had waited patiently for 7 years, tragically passed away just 5 months after the tomb's opening. A mosquito bite, a razor nick, a subsequent infection leading to pneumonia, a medical explanation, logical and grim. Yet, the storytellers of Fleet Street, eager for drama, seized upon the timing. The lights in Cairo reportedly flickered at the moment of his death. His dog back in England was said to have howled and died simultaneously. A cobra, the symbol of royalty, had supposedly eaten Carter's pet canary. These tales, spun with feverish abandon, painted a chilling picture, an ancient power roused from its slumber, exacting vengeance on those who dared disturb the rest of a king. Imagine the atmosphere. The world, still reeling from the Great War, hungered for sensation, for the mysterious, for something beyond the mundane. The idea of a sleeping curse, guardians of the dead, invisible forces defending an ancient king, was irresistibly captivating. It was a perfect story, woven from the rich tapestry of myth and fear, and amplified by the nascent power of mass media. For years, the legend grew. Each subsequent death of someone connected to the tomb, even if by the loosest of threads, was attributed to the curse. You might read of another archaeologist succumbing to a sudden illness, a journalist meeting an untimely end, a relative dying unexpectedly. The narratives were crafted, polished, and presented as irrefutable proof of a malevolent spirit at work. The press, with its insatiable appetite for the dramatic, found a goldmine in Tutankhamun's tomb, not just in its physical treasures, but in the spectral terror it supposedly harbored. But let us gently peel back these layers of sensationalism, like brushing away sand from an ancient artifact. If we look with a calm, discerning eye, the evidence tells a different story. Lord Carnarvon's death, while tragically timed, had a clear medical explanation. And what of the others? Over the years, many who were present at the tomb's opening, who handled its contents, who spent weeks and months within its confines, lived long, full lives. Howard Carter himself, the man who first laid eyes on the undisturbed burial chamber, lived another 16 years after the discovery, passing away peacefully in 1939 at the age of 64, a respectable age for the time. Other members of the expedition, photographers, Egyptologists, and various support staff, continued their careers, some living well into their 80s and 90s. The narrative of a widespread, relentless curse simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny when viewed through the lens of objective data. The human mind, especially when presented with a compelling story, often seeks patterns where none truly exist, connecting dots that are, in reality, miles apart. So, if not a supernatural curse, what could have contributed to the early demise of a few individuals, or simply the pervasive feeling of unease in such a confined, ancient space? Here, science offers a more grounded, yet equally fascinating possibility. Consider the environment of a sealed tomb, undisturbed for over 3 millennia. The air within would have been still, stale, and dense, laden with the dust of decomposition and preservation. Imagine stepping into such a chamber, the air heavy, perhaps with a faint, musty scent that clings to your clothes. Over thousands of years, the organic materials within, the linen wrappings of the mummy, the food offerings, the wooden furniture, the pigments on the walls, could have harbored, and indeed cultivated, a formidable array of microorganisms. Ancient molds, bacteria, and fungi, dormant for centuries, could have found a sudden, fertile environment in the fresh oxygen and warmth brought in by the tomb's opening. Some theories suggest that these microbes, particularly certain types of mold like Thordi aspergillus niger or Tudi aspergillus flavus sif, could produce potent mycotoxins. Inhaling these spores in high concentrations, especially for individuals with compromised immune systems or pre-existing respiratory conditions, could lead to severe allergic reactions, respiratory distress, or even long-term illnesses. Imagine the fine, almost imperceptible dust motes dancing in the shafts of light that pierce the gloom, each carrying potentially harmful passengers. The air, though seemingly still, could have been a silent carrier of microscopic threats. Think of the dust that accumulates in forgotten corners of an old, unused attic, now magnified by thousands of years of accumulation and isolation. Moreover, the tomb environment could have also contained ancient, trapped gases, or even more subtly, the psychological toll of working in such an enclosed, dimly lit space, under immense pressure and with a constant awareness of the history surrounding them, could have exacerbated existing health conditions or contributed to stress-related ailments. So, the curse was perhaps not a divine judgment from a vengeful pharaoh, but rather the silent, microscopic legacy of a carefully sealed tomb, a natural defense mechanism honed by time itself, a whisper of science rather than a roar of magic. And as you let that thought settle, the air around you feels cleaner, the space more open, and the silence more comforting. It is interesting to reflect on the images that flood your mind when you think of ancient Egypt and the stark, golden desert, the majestic Nile, and invariably the eyes, those almond-shaped eyes, often elongated and intensified by a thick, dark line that stretches towards the temples. Both men and women, pharaohs and commoners, adults and children, depicted in sculptures on tomb walls and in hieroglyphs, all share this striking feature, a bold application of what we now call kohl. Imagine the scorching sun of Egypt, a relentless orb in a sky of perfect cloudless blue. The light reflects off the golden sand, off the bright limestone, a dazzling, almost painful intensity that makes the eyes squint. You can feel the dryness in the air, the fine particles of sand that can sting and irritate. It is in this environment that kohl found its true purpose, far beyond mere aesthetics. The preparation of this ancient cosmetic was a ritual in itself. It wasn't simply a pencil you picked up. The main ingredient was galena, a lead sulfide mineral that, when ground into a fine powder, takes on a deep, lustrous black. Sometimes soot from burning lamps, malachite for green hues, or other minerals like lead ore and manganese oxide were blended in. Imagine the meticulous process, the grinding of these raw minerals on a small stone pallet, often adorned with animal carvings, creating a fine, silky powder. Then, this powder was mixed with oils or fats, perhaps castor oil or even animal fat, to create a smooth, workable paste. The scent might have been subtly earthy, mineral, rich, with a hint of the oil used as a binder. This paste was then stored in small, elegantly crafted pots, often made of alabaster, stone, or even wood, each a tiny work of art in itself. To apply it, a slender applicator stick, often made of ivory, wood, or bone, was used. Picture it. You dip the stick into the kohl pot, then carefully trace the lines around your eyes. It would have felt cool, perhaps slightly oily, as it glided across the skin. The Egyptians were masters of this art, creating precise, symmetrical lines that not only enhanced the beauty of the eyes but also served crucial practical and spiritual functions. One of the primary, very practical reasons for the heavy kohl was protection. Think of the desert sun. Much like modern athletes apply eye black under their eyes to reduce glare from stadium lights, the kohl acted as a natural sun shield. The dark pigment would absorb the harsh sunlight, reducing the intensity of the glare reflecting into the eyes. It was, in essence, an ancient form of sunglasses, helping them to see more clearly under the brilliant Egyptian sky. You could almost feel your own eyes relaxing, shielded from the dazzling light by that comforting dark border. Beyond the sun, the desert environment presented other challenges. Fine dust and wind-blown sand were constant irritants. Insects, particularly flies that carried diseases like conjunctivitis, were also a pervasive nuisance. The kohl, with its oily consistency, would have formed a protective barrier, preventing sand from entering the eyes and deterring insects from landing too close. Some modern scientific studies even suggest that the lead compounds in kohl, when reacting with the skin, could stimulate the production of nitric oxide, which in turn could help prevent eye infections. So, what seemed like a simple cosmetic might have been a subtle, ancient form of pharmacology, a practical health aid against the daily aggressions of their environment. But the significance of kohl transcended mere utility. It was deeply intertwined with their spiritual beliefs. The eye, in ancient Egypt, was a powerful symbol, especially the Eye of Horus, a potent protective amulet against evil and a symbol of royal power, good health, and rebirth. By outlining their eyes with kohl, Egyptians believed they were invoking the protective power of the gods, particularly Horus and Ra. It was a ritual act, a way of warding off the evil eye, of inviting divine favor, and of connecting with the celestial realm. Imagine applying it not just for a clearer view, but with a quiet prayer, a conscious invocation of protection. It also served a profound aesthetic purpose. The dark lines accentuated the eyes, making them appear larger, more defined, and more expressive. In a culture where the gaze held deep meaning, enhancing this feature was a way to communicate power, beauty, and wisdom. From the serene face of Nefertiti to the powerful gaze of Ramses II, the kohl was an inseparable part of the iconic Egyptian look, a timeless symbol of their civilization's elegance and mystique. It was a shared experience, binding the entire society in a common practice, a visual language understood by all, a silent promise of beauty, protection, and connection to the divine etched around the windows to the soul. And now, gently, let us turn our attention from the subtle elegance of ancient Egyptian faces to the very foundation of their daily survival, the sustenance that fueled their extraordinary achievements. Imagine a world where your daily wage isn't a handful of coins or a numbered bank transfer, but tangible, essential provisions. This was the reality for the vast majority of ancient Egyptians, especially those who toiled on the grand projects that still stand today: the pyramids, the temples, the colossal statues. They were paid not with abstract currency, but with a fixed daily ration of two of the most fundamental necessities of life: bread and beer. Picture yourself as one of these laborers, rising with the sun, the air still cool and crisp, carrying the faint scent of the Nile. Your muscles ache from yesterday's work, but the promise of your daily ration compels you forward. You understand implicitly that your worth, your survival, is measured in loaves and jugs. This wasn't some primitive oversight. It was a highly organized, efficient economic system, perfectly suited to the conditions of the time. In a society without widespread coinage, and where the majority of the population was engaged in agricultural labor, a system based on staple goods made perfect sense. It was a direct exchange of labor for life, a transparent transaction that left no room for abstract values or fluctuating markets. Let's first consider the bread, not the soft, fluffy bread you might enjoy today, but a dense, hearty, often gritty loaf, the cornerstone of the Egyptian diet. The primary grains cultivated along the fertile banks of the Nile were emmer wheat and barley. Imagine the fields, stretching green and gold under the sun, a testament to the life-giving river. The process from grain to loaf was arduous and communal. Harvest time was a busy, dusty affair, with teams working under the blazing sun, scything the stalks, gathering them into bundles. Then came the threshing, separating the grain from the chaff, a process that released clouds of fine dust into the air, settling on everything. The grinding of the grain was a daily, demanding task, often performed by women. Picture them kneeling at saddle querns, 2 stones, one fixed, the other rubbed back and forth, to manually grind the grain into flour. This was a slow, laborious process, requiring immense strength and patience, and inevitably, tiny fragments of the stone querns would break off, mixing with the flour. This meant that every single loaf of ancient Egyptian bread contained a certain amount of grit. You can almost feel that coarse texture on your tongue, hear the slight crunch between your teeth. This constant abrasion from the stone particles contributed to the famously worn teeth of ancient Egyptians, often seen in their mummified remains. By the time they reached middle age, their teeth might have been ground down to the gums, a silent testament to their daily bread. The dough was then kneaded, often by foot in large troughs for large quantities, a laborious and sometimes unhygienic process. Then, shaped into various forms, the loaves were baked in simple, dome-shaped mud, brick ovens, or sometimes directly on hot stones or ashes. The smell of baking bread would have permeated the air around the workers' villages, a comforting, familiar aroma. Each loaf was heavy, substantial, providing the necessary calories and nutrients for a day of strenuous physical labor. It was more than just food. It was energy, sustenance, the very fuel of their existence. And the quality varied. The pharaohs and nobles might enjoy finer sifted flour, perhaps enriched with dates or honey, while the common laborer's bread was coarse, dark, and utterly essential. Then there was the beer. For the ancient Egyptians, beer was not merely an intoxicating beverage. It was a fundamental dietary staple, a nutritional powerhouse, and a safer alternative to often contaminated river water. Imagine a thick, murky liquid, slightly sweet and sour, with a yeasty aroma that hints at its fermentation. It was a low-alcohol brew, often more like a liquid bread or a porridge, packed with calories, protein, and B vitamins. In a climate where waterborne diseases were common, the brewing process, which involved boiling water and fermentation, made beer a safer and more reliable source of hydration. The process of making beer was also intertwined with bread making. Often, partially baked loaves of bread were crumbled into large vats, mixed with water, and left to ferment. The natural yeasts in the air, or deliberately added starter cultures, would work their magic, transforming the sugars into alcohol and creating that distinctive taste and texture. Imagine the communal vats, bubbling gently, emitting a rich, fermented scent. A worker might receive several jugs of this nutritious liquid each day, enough to keep them hydrated, energized, and perhaps even a little jovial after a long day under the sun. It was consumed by everyone, men, women, and even children, albeit in smaller quantities and likely lower alcoholic content, though of course the quantities for children, or those not performing heavy labor, would have been less. So, when you consider the life of an ancient Egyptian laborer, imagine not just the physical effort of moving stones or working the fields, but also the constant, tangible reward that defined their existence, a consistent, reliable supply of bread and beer. It was a system that ensured survival, that sustained monumental endeavors, and that wove itself into the very fabric of their culture. It speaks volumes about a civilization that understood the fundamental needs of its people and devised an elegant, practical way to meet them. As you drift deeper, think of the simple, honest satisfaction of a warm loaf and a cool drink after a day of labor, a universal comfort that transcends the ages, a secret of sustenance whispered from the fertile soil of the Nile. The gentle flow of the Nile, a timeless ribbon of life, not only nurtured crops and people, but also whispered secrets into the ancient homes that lined its banks. And in those homes, amongst the families and their daily rhythms, you would often find a creature of quiet grace, whose very presence was considered a blessing. Imagine a scene. The soft glow of an oil lamp casts long, dancing shadows on the mud, brick walls of a simple Egyptian dwelling. A child is sleeping soundly on a straw mat. Near the hearth, a woman grinds grain, the rhythmic scrape of stone against stone a soothing lullaby, and stretched out, elegantly serene, a cat. Its fur, perhaps a dappled tabby or a sleek ebony, catches the flickers of light. Its eyes, those ancient, luminous emerald orbs, are half closed, yet constantly vigilant. For the ancient Egyptians, these domestic felines were far more than just pets. They were revered, held in a sacred esteem that might surprise a modern observer. These graceful creatures were seen as living embodiments, or at least earthly representatives of Bastet, the goddess of home, fertility, joy, and protection. Bastet, often depicted with the head of a lioness or a domestic cat, watched over the hearth, bringing warmth, comfort, and a fierce, yet gentle, guardianship. So, when you moved through the bustling streets of Memphis or Thebes, or rested in the quiet solitude of your own home, the presence of a cat was a constant comforting reassurance. You might see them lounging in sunbeams, chasing scurrying vermin with astonishing agility, or simply observing the human world with an air of profound, almost knowing serenity. Their quiet movements, their soft purrs, the subtle rub against an ankle funny. These were not just random animal behaviors. They were small benedictions, signs of the goddess's favor, an unseen shield against the unseen forces of chaos that always lurked at the edges of the ordered world. Consider the practical side, too, which only amplified their divine status. In a land where grain was wealth, and vermin threatened that wealth, cats were the ultimate protectors. They kept mice and rats at bay, safeguarding the precious stores of barley and emmer wheat. They even hunted snakes, those slithering symbols of danger from the harsh desert lands. This practical utility combined with their enigmatic beauty and independent spirit cemented their place not just in homes, but in the very heart of Egyptian spiritual life. The reverence was so profound that harming a cat was not merely a misdemeanor. It was a sacrilege, a direct insult to the goddess Bastet. Imagine the hushed horror, the collective gasp, if someone were to accidentally or, far worse, intentionally cause harm to one of these beloved creatures. The consequences could be severe, even fatal. To mistakenly take the life of a cat, even unintentionally, could lead to a public trial, and in some cases, a death sentence. The sanctity of the feline was absolute. When a beloved cat passed away, it was a moment of profound grief. Families would often shave their eyebrows as a sign of mourning, a visible declaration of their sorrow. And the journey into the afterlife for these sacred companions was taken with utmost care. Thousands upon thousands of cat mummies have been unearthed, carefully prepared, sometimes adorned with small ornaments, wrapped in linen bandages and placed in elaborate, often wooden, cat-shaped coffins. They were interred in vast necropolises dedicated to Bastet, such as Bubastis or Saqqara, alongside their human companions or simply in vast communal burial grounds, awaiting their own journey to the field of reeds, a reflection of their eternal importance. Picture these rows upon rows of small, silent sarcophagi, each containing the preserved form of a feline, a testament to a love and respect that transcended the simple bond between human and animal. It speaks to a culture that saw divinity in the everyday, that understood the subtle power of a watchful eye, a gentle purr, and the quiet, protective grace of a creature whose very essence seemed to whisper of ancient magic and enduring peace. Now, as you gently drift, let's turn our gaze from the warmth of the hearth to the bustling heart of Egyptian society itself, specifically to the complex and surprisingly modern tapestry of human relationships, particularly those between men and women. For centuries, the prevailing narrative of ancient civilizations often painted a picture of societies dominated by men, where women held little power, few rights, and were largely relegated to the domestic sphere with no recourse outside of it. But ancient Egypt, as in so many things, stands as a fascinating counterpoint, a quiet revolution hidden in the papyrus scrolls and tomb paintings that have survived the sands of time. Imagine a woman in ancient Egypt, not a queen or a goddess, but an ordinary woman, perhaps a weaver, a baker, or a manager of a household estate. She might be sitting in a scribe's office, or perhaps even in a public square where legal matters were discussed, her head held high, her gaze steady. She is there not to be judged, but to make a claim, to assert a right, or even to dissolve a union that no longer serves her. For in the eyes of Egyptian law, women were remarkably equal to men. This wasn't a modern concept of gender equality as we understand it today, but it was astonishingly progressive for its time. An Egyptian woman could own property, inherit land, manage her own finances, engage in business transactions, testify in court, and even initiate legal proceedings. She could lend money, borrow money, and make her own will. Her status was not solely defined by her husband or father. She had an independent legal identity. Consider the implications of this. It meant that a woman's economic security was not entirely dependent on the whims of a male relative. She could build her own wealth, protect her assets, and ensure her own future. And perhaps one of the most striking manifestations of this equality was in the realm of marriage and its dissolution. Marriage in ancient Egypt was primarily a civil contract, not a religious sacrament. There were no elaborate temple ceremonies, no priests officiating the vows. It was an agreement between two individuals and their families, often formalized with written documents detailing the transfer of property, the provision of a dowry by the bride's family, and a bride price or gift from the groom. These documents were essentially prenuptial agreements, laying out the terms of the union. And just as there were agreements to enter a marriage, there were also provisions to end one. Divorce was a relatively straightforward process available to both men and women. If a marriage broke down for reasons ranging from infertility to infidelity, or simply irreconcilable differences. Though they didn't use that exact phrase, the sentiment was often there. Either spouse could initiate a divorce. Imagine a papyrus scroll carefully unrolled by a scribe. On it, the elegant hieroglyphs tell a story, not of a grand pharaoh, but of a woman named Nofret, seeking to separate from her husband, Neferhotep. The document would meticulously detail the terms of their separation, the division of shared property, the return of Nofret's original dowry, and crucially, often a provision for the wife's ongoing financial support from her ex-husband. This support could be in the form of a lump sum or regular payments of grain, clothing, and other necessities, particularly if she had children to care for. This wasn't an act of charity. It was a legal obligation, rooted in the understanding that both parties had contributed to the marriage, and both deserved a fair division upon its termination. It reflected a deep-seated value in ancient Egyptian society for 40-20, the cosmic order, justice, and balance sardi, which was meant to permeate all aspects of life, including personal relationships. So, while we may picture ancient women as silent figures in the background, Egyptian women were vocal, active participants in their society, with a legal standing that allowed them to assert their rights, protect their interests, and navigate the complexities of life and relationships with a remarkable degree of autonomy. The whispers of these ancient divorce agreements remind us that true equality, or at least a powerful approximation of it, has roots far deeper in human history than we often realize. It's a testament to a civilization that, even in its vastness and grandeur, understood the intricate balance within individual lives. And now, let us shift our focus to the grandest monuments of all. The colossal pyramids that pierce the desert sky, eternal sentinels of a forgotten age. These towering structures, born of stone and human will, have long been shrouded in mystery, and perhaps misconception. For many, the image that instantly springs to mind is one of slaves, toiling under the scorching sun, driven by whips and chains, forced to build these tombs for tyrannical pharaohs. Forget that image. Let it dissolve like a mirage in the desert heat. The truth, revealed through decades of meticulous archaeological work, tells a far more nuanced and, in many ways, more inspiring story. The magnificent pyramids of Egypt, including the Great Pyramid of Giza, were not built by an enslaved workforce. They were the monumental achievement of skilled, organized, and often willing Egyptian laborers. Picture, instead, a vibrant, bustling city that once stood just a stone's throw from the construction sites. This wasn't a prison camp. It was a purpose-built settlement, a dedicated pyramid city, designed to house and sustain the thousands of workers who committed their lives to this incredible endeavor. Imagine the sounds emanating from this city at dawn, the lowing of cattle, the chatter of voices, the clanging of cooking pots. and the rhythmic thud of bakers pounding dough. Archaeologists have unearthed evidence of bakeries capable of producing thousands of loaves of bread each day, enough to feed a small army of workers. Picture the air thick with the smell of freshly baked bread, rich and earthy, alongside the tang of brewing beer. For these were the staples, the very currency of their labor. Like the workers we spoke of earlier, the pyramid builders were paid for their monumental efforts, not with coins or abstract currency, but with sustenance 40 ample rations of bread, beer, and protein from cattle, sheep, and fish. This was a substantial wage for its time, ensuring their health and strength for the arduous tasks ahead. Walk through the remains of this ancient city. You would find organized barracks, not cages, but communal living quarters providing shelter and a sense of community. There were medical facilities, crude by modern standards, but staffed by skilled physicians and bone setters, tending to the inevitable injuries that arose from moving colossal blocks of stone. The presence of such care speaks volumes about the value placed on these workers. They were not expendable tools. They were vital components of a national project, citizens whose well-being was considered important. The work itself was incredibly demanding. Imagine the sheer physicality of it. You perhaps are part of a team, hauling immense stones weighing many tons, up ramps that seem to stretch endlessly towards the sky. The grit of sand on your skin, the burning sun on your back, the strain in your muscles as you pull, push, and lever, the rhythmic chants of your fellow workers coordinating your efforts, echo across the plateau, a powerful chorus of human endeavor. But this was not work born of coercion. It was born of deep faith and a profound sense of national pride. The pharaoh was not just a king, he was a living god, the embodiment of divine order, the one who ensured the continued prosperity and stability of Egypt. To build his eternal resting place, a gateway to the heavens, was an act of profound religious devotion, a way to secure not only the pharaoh's eternal life, but, by extension, the prosperity of Egypt itself. And when their shift was over, after the dust of the day had settled and the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, these workers would return to their village. They would eat their fill, perhaps enjoy a mug of beer and rest, knowing they were contributing to something truly immortal. Perhaps the most poignant evidence against the slave narrative comes from the cemeteries found near the pyramid sites. Here, archaeologists have discovered the tombs of many of these pyramid builders. These are not mass graves, nor are they anonymous burials. They are organized cemeteries where individuals were interred with dignity, sometimes with small personal possessions, and even simple stelae identifying them by name and profession. They lie in the shadow of the very monuments they helped create, a testament to their honored place in society and their contribution to history. These were free men, skilled craftsmen, quarrymen, stonecutters, architects, and foremen, working alongside farmers and peasants during the annual Nile inundation, when agricultural work was impossible. They were organized into highly efficient teams, each with a specific role, operating with a level of precision and engineering prowess that continues to astound modern experts. Their motivation was not fear, but a shared belief, a collective ambition, and a deep-seated pride in their work. So, as you visualize these colossal structures, standing silent under the endless Egyptian sky, remember the hands that built them. Not the hands of the enslaved, but the hands of devoted Egyptians, working together fueled by bread and beer, driven by faith, and united by the grand vision of eternal life. Their sweat and ingenuity carved monuments that defied time, and in doing so, they also carved their own legacy as a testament to human spirit and collective achievement. Now, let your mind drift from the vast, open sands, and let's journey deep inside one of humanity's most enduring puzzles. Imagine the cool, silent air of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a monumental structure that has stood sentinel for millennia, holding secrets within its very stone. For a long time, the internal shafts within Khufu's pyramid were simply understood as practical elements sooty, perhaps ventilation shafts, allowing air to circulate through the colossal tomb, a logical, if somewhat mundane explanation for such an extraordinary engineering feat. But as our understanding of ancient Egyptian cosmology deepens, and our tools for observation become more precise, a different, far more poetic truth has begun to emerge. These aren't just air ducts. They are, in essence, celestial pathways, carefully crafted to guide the pharaoh's soul on its eternal journey through the cosmos. Picture yourself inside, perhaps within the king's chamber or the queen's chamber, gazing up into the darkness where these narrow tunnels disappear into the solid rock. They ascend, not randomly, but with astonishing precision, angling themselves towards specific, significant stars. Consider the southern shafts leading from the king's chamber. One points directly towards the belt of Orion, a constellation known to the ancient Egyptians as Sa. For them, Orion wasn't just a pattern of bright lights. It was the heavenly manifestation of Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and the underworld. The very god with whom the deceased pharaoh was destined to merge. So, this shaft wasn't just a conduit. It was a beacon, a direct spiritual highway for the pharaoh's K, his life force, to ascend and unite with the divine Osiris, ensuring his eternal rebirth in the starry fields of the sky. Imagine the reverence, the profound belief embedded in every angle, every carefully hewn stone of that passageway. It was a tangible connection between the earthly realm of the pharaoh's entombed body and the celestial realm where his divine essence would find its true home. Then there are the northern shafts. The one from the king's chamber points towards Thuban, or Alpha Draconis, which was the North Star during the era of the pyramid's construction. This star, the immovable pivot around which the heavens seemed to revolve, represented permanence and eternity. For the pharaoh, to align with Thuban was to connect with an unmoving, constant force in the cosmos, a symbol of endless life and unchanging power. It was a fixed point of return, a guiding light for his soul's cyclical journey. Now, shift your gaze to the Queen's chamber, also within the Great Pyramid. It too has shafts initially sealed, suggesting their purpose was not immediately obvious or accessible. The southern shaft from this chamber also points towards Orion, reinforcing the theme of resurrection and connection to Osiris. The northern shaft, interestingly, points to Ursa Minor, or perhaps specifically to Kochab within Ursa Minor. While the exact celestial target can be debated slightly due to precession of the equinoxes over millennia, the intent remains clear. These were not mere architectural quirks. They were integral components of a complex, sophisticated funerary cosmology, designed to facilitate the pharaoh's transformation from a mortal ruler into an immortal god. The sheer accuracy required to align these narrow ascending tunnels with stars that would have been visible thousands of years ago, factoring in the Earth's slow wobble Fadi, known as axial precession Fadi, is breathtaking. It speaks to an astronomical knowledge and an engineering prowess that continues to humble us today. These weren't crude observations. These were precise calculations, deeply integrated into their most sacred architecture. So, when you consider the Great Pyramid, try to look beyond the massive stones and the imposing silhouette. Listen to the quiet whispers of the stars that once shone down those narrow passages, inviting the pharaoh's soul to step out of the earthly tomb and embark on an unimaginable journey through the celestial river, guided by the very stars he was destined to join. It is a star code, written in stone, a testament to a civilization that truly believed the sky was not the limit, but merely the next stage of existence. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk from the meticulously crafted interior of the pyramid. Let's now turn our attention to one of its most iconic guardians, standing silent and inscrutable on the Giza Plateau, the Great Sphinx. This colossal statue, with the body of a lion and the head of a human, has watched over the sands for an unfathomable span of time, its gaze fixed on the rising sun. Traditionally, it is attributed to Pharaoh Khafra, built around 2500 BCE, placing its creation firmly within the Old Kingdom period. And for centuries, we've largely accepted that the primary force of erosion shaping its weathered surface has been the relentless desert winds and the abrasive sand they carry. But what if a different, more ancient story is etched into its very stone? Imagine, for a moment, not the dry, dusty winds, but the steady, persistent patter of rainfall, falling not for years, but for centuries, perhaps millennia. This brings us to a compelling, albeit unconventional, geological hypothesis that challenges our understanding of the Sphinx's age, and by extension, the timeline of early Egyptian civilization. Some scholars, primarily geologists rather than archaeologists, have pointed to the distinct patterns of erosion on the Sphinx's body, particularly on its enclosure walls. They argue that these patterns, characterized by deep vertical fissures and undulating, rounded hollows, are far more consistent with sustained water erosion thifting, the kind caused by heavy, prolonged rainfall, than with the sharp, horizontal scouring typically associated with wind-blown sand. Think of how a cliff face is eroded by a waterfall or heavy rain over vast periods, creating a very different visual signature than a sandblasted surface. Wind erosion tends to be more abrasive, often creating horizontal striations or polishing surfaces, while water erosion can carve deeper, more irregular channels and softer, undulating forms, especially on softer layers of rock. The Sphinx is carved from a limestone bedrock that varies in hardness, with softer layers interspersed with harder ones. Water erosion would naturally exploit these differences, hollowing out the softer parts more dramatically, leading to the kind of scalloped or undercut appearance observed on the Sphinx. Wind, while certainly a factor, doesn't seem to account for the depth and character of these specific features, argue the proponents of the water erosion theory. If this geological assessment is accurate, it has profound implications. The Sahara Desert as we know it today was not always a parched landscape. Thousands of years before the Old Kingdom, during what is known as the Green Sahara or African Humid Period, the region experienced significantly higher rainfall. This period began to dry out around 5000 to 6000 BCE, long before the accepted construction date of the Sphinx. So, if the Sphinx's erosion truly is primarily due to rain, It suggests that this monumental sculpture must have been exposed to such conditions for an extended period. This would push its construction date back thousands of years, potentially placing it at least to 6000 BCE, or even earlier, perhaps even predating the very emergence of what we traditionally define as dynastic Egyptian civilization. Imagine the sheer scale of this idea. It implies that a highly sophisticated culture, capable of carving such an immense and complex monument, existed in the Nile Valley thousands of years before the pharaohs we know. A civilization from which we have very little other archaeological evidence, because their traces might be buried under millennia of sand, or perhaps their other structures, made of less durable materials, simply vanished. This is, of course, a highly debated topic within academic circles. Mainstream archaeology largely adheres to the Old Kingdom dating, based on stylistic analysis, textual evidence, though none directly mention the Sphinx's construction and association with the surrounding pyramids. But the water erosion hypothesis invites us to consider the profound mystery that this ancient beast presents. It asks us to look closely at the stone itself, to read the language of its weathered surface, and to ponder the possibility that the Sphinx might be an enduring witness to a much older, forgotten past, silently guarding secrets that extend far beyond the pharaohs and into the mists of time when the desert was green and the skies wept. It adds another layer of intrigue to an already enigmatic monument, reminding us that history, like the sands, can always shift and reveal new perspectives. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk from the silent, weathered face of the Sphinx. Let your thoughts now drift to another monumental achievement that dots the Egyptian landscape and graces the plazas of cities around the world. The obelisk. These towering, needle-like structures, often capped with gold or electrum to catch the first rays of the sun, are more than just impressive monuments. They are miracles of ancient engineering and artistic expression. Imagine for a moment the sheer audacity of the task. The ancient Egyptians didn't just build with stones, they wrestled entire mountains into submission. An obelisk by definition is a monolithic structure funi, meaning it is carved from a single colossal piece of stone. Often, these were made from the hardest granite quarried hundreds of miles away in Aswan. We're talking about single pieces of rock that could weigh hundreds, even over 1,000 tons. That is the weight of several jumbo jets, all in one solid block. Picture the quarry in Aswan, a landscape scarred by the efforts of millennia. The quarrymen would identify a suitable fault line or crack in the granite. Then, using methods that still humble modern engineers, they would begin the slow, arduous process of separation. Instead of explosives or power tools, they primarily relied on sheer human ingenuity and persistence. They would carve channels along the desired lines of the obelisk, using dolerite pounders, harder, denser rocks, to slowly chip away at the granite. Once the channels were established, they would likely insert wooden wedges into the rock. These wedges would then be soaked with water, causing the wood to swell with immense force, slowly but surely splitting the massive block from its bedrock. This was not a quick process. This was a patient, sustained effort, demanding extraordinary coordination and understanding of geology. Once freed, imagine the next challenge, moving this colossal, untamed stone. There were no wheeled cranes as we know them. Instead, they employed an incredible combination of ramps, levers, and enormous teams of human and animal power. The obelisk would be slowly dragged out of the quarry, perhaps onto wooden sledges, lubricated with water or mud to reduce friction. This was a feat of raw strength and meticulously planned logistics, probably involving thousands of laborers pulling on ropes, inching the massive stone forward. But the journey wasn't over. These obelisks often needed to travel vast distances, particularly down the Nile River to cities like Heliopolis, Karnak, or Luxor. How do you transport 1,000-ton stone by water? They built specially designed massive barges, likely 2 boats lashed together for stability strong enough to bear the unimaginable weight. The obelisk would be carefully loaded onto these barges, perhaps by digging a channel and floating the barge underneath, or by building elaborate ramps that sloped down to the water's edge. Then, with the currents of the Nile and the power of rowers, these silent stone giants would embark on their aquatic journey, a procession that must have been a spectacular sight. Finally, the most delicate and awe-inspiring part, erection. How do you stand up 1,000-ton, impossibly tall stone without modern hydraulics? Again, no wheeled cranes. The most widely accepted theory involves a colossal earthen ramp built around the base where the obelisk was to stand. The obelisk would be dragged up this ramp, likely to a position directly over its carefully prepared pedestal. Then, using a combination of counterweights, levers, and an immense amount of coordinated effort, the obelisk would be slowly tilted upright, its base settling into its waiting socket. This was a moment of immense tension and precision where a single miscalculation could lead to disaster. Think of the unfinished obelisk still lying in the Aswan quarry. It is an immense granite monolith, almost 42 meters, 137 feet long, that cracked during its carving and was abandoned. Its sheer size, even in its unfinished state, offers a chilling glimpse into the scale of these projects and the risks involved. It tells a story of ambition, struggle, and the occasional, heartbreaking failure. Yet, despite these challenges, the Egyptians succeeded repeatedly. They erected dozens of these magnificent structures, some of which still stand in Egypt, while others have found new homes in Paris, London, Rome, and New York, silent ambassadors of an ancient civilization's enduring genius. Each one is a testament to an unwavering will to create enduring symbols of their pharaoh's connection to the sun god Ra, of their pursuit of eternity, and of their profound mastery over stone and the forces of nature. As you visualize these ancient engineers with their simple tools and grand vision, you can almost hear the rhythmic chant of the workers, the creak of wooden levers, and the slow, grinding scrape of stone, all coming together to defy gravity and time itself. The cool, soft darkness of the burial chamber envelops you, a silent witness to a process as ancient as the sands themselves. We drift now towards the very heart of the Egyptian quest for eternity, a ritual designed to defy the relentless march of time, the making of a mummy. This was not a hurried or haphazard affair, but a meticulous 70-day odyssey from the realm of the living to the threshold of the divine. 70 days, a number woven into the very fabric of their celestial understanding, reflecting the period during which the brilliant star Sirius opted to the Egyptians when it would vanish from the night sky, only to reappear, signaling the rebirth of the year and the return of the life-giving Nile flood. This disappearance and reappearance, this celestial death and rebirth, was the cosmic blueprint for the human journey to the afterlife. Imagine the air in the embalming tent, heavy with the scent of resins, spices, and something far older, a deep, earthy aroma that spoke of ancient rituals and sacred purpose. The journey began shortly after death, with the body being taken to the 40 Wabbit, the pure place. Here, the chief embalmer, often wearing the jackal-headed mask of Anubis, god of mummification, would oversee the initial, most delicate procedures. The brain, considered less important than the heart for intelligence and emotion, was often the first to be addressed. A long, slender bronze hook, perhaps with a soft, rounded tip, would be carefully inserted through the nostrils, gently stirring and breaking up the brain tissue until it could be carefully drained. It was a task requiring immense skill and a steady hand, a silent acknowledgement of the fragility of the human vessel. Next, a small, precise incision, usually on the left side of the abdomen, would be made. Through this opening, the internal organs, the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines sephi were carefully removed. These were not discarded, for they were deemed vital for the deceased's complete self in the afterlife. Their preservation was as crucial as that of the body itself, leading to the creation of the beautiful canopic jars we will soon explore. The heart, however, was always left untouched within the chest. It was believed to be the seat of intelligence, emotion, and memory, the core of one's being, and the key player in the final judgment before Osiris. To remove it would be to condemn the soul to a silent, senseless eternity. With the organs removed, the body was thoroughly cleansed both internally and externally. Washing with palm wine, a fragrant liquid served to purify and sterilize, preparing the form for its long slumber. Then came the heart of the preservation process, natron. This naturally occurring salt, a mixture of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate, was mined from the desert, primarily from the Wadi el Natron. The body would be completely covered in this powerful desiccant, both inside and out. Picture the body lying on a tilted table, perhaps on a bed of natron, with more natron carefully packed into the cavity where the organs had once resided. For approximately 40 days, the natron would slowly, relentlessly draw all moisture from the tissues, transforming the soft, yielding flesh into a dry, rigid form. The air would grow even drier, the subtle crackle of the salt doing its work a testament to the passage of time. During this drying period, a subtle transformation would occur. The skin would tighten, darken, and take on a leathery texture, a quiet testament to the enduring power of the desert itself. After the 40 days of desiccation, the natron would be carefully removed. The body, now light and hollowed, would be gently brushed clean, leaving behind a form utterly changed, prepared for its next stage. It was then that the careful anointing began. The skin would be massaged with a rich blend of precious oils, fragrant resins, and sweet-smelling ointments. Myrrh, frankincense, cedar oil, toluene. These were not merely scents, but potent symbols of purification, protection, and divine essence. The touch of these balms would soften the dried skin, returning a measure of suppleness, and impart a subtle, lingering fragrance that would accompany the deceased into eternity. Finally, the grand act of wrapping would commence, a process that could take another 30 days, completing the sacred 70-day cycle. Imagine the vast quantities of fine linen bandages, often torn from old garments or specifically woven for this purpose. Each strip, sometimes several yards long, would be meticulously applied, layer upon layer, sometimes hundreds of layers in all. The process was ritualistic, almost meditative. As the priests worked, they would intone spells and prayers, each bandage a protective layer, each word an invocation. Small amulets, perhaps a scarab for rebirth, the Eye of Horus for protection, or a Djed pillar for stability, would be carefully placed between the layers, nestled close to the skin, whispering their silent magic. The wrapping was not merely about holding the body together. It was about creating a secure, sacred cocoon, transforming the earthly shell into a divine vessel, ready for its arduous journey through the duat, the underworld. The finished mummy, a silent, swaddled form, was then prepared for its final resting place, a timeless effigy awaiting the dawn of a new life. As the priests meticulously wrapped the body in layers of linen, their hands moving with practiced reverence, another crucial step in the journey to eternity was being completed simultaneously: the careful preservation and housing of the internal organs. For the ancient Egyptians, the body's integrity in the afterlife was paramount, and this extended to every vital part. As we heard, the heart remained, but the other four key organs, the liver, lungs, stomach, and intestines body, were removed during the mummification process. They were not simply discarded, but treated with the same meticulous care as the rest of the body, destined to be reunited with the deceased in the endless fields of Aro. This is where the magnificent canopic jars came into play. 4 distinct vessels, each with its own guardian and its own sacred purpose. Imagine these jars now, smooth and cool to the touch, often crafted from exquisite alabaster, limestone, or fine pottery, their surfaces polished to a soft sheen that would catch the ambient light of the tomb. Each jar was a small masterpiece, not just a container, but a vessel imbued with potent spiritual significance. They would be carefully cleansed, perhaps with aromatic oils, before the desiccated organs, once removed from the body and dried with natron, were gently placed inside. The lids of these jars were perhaps their most striking feature, for they were not simple stoppers, but intricately carved representations of the 4 sons of Horus, tasked with protecting these vital parts. Let us meet these guardians, these celestial siblings. First, there was Imistity, the human-headed sun whose gentle gaze was directed towards the jar containing the liver. The liver, so crucial for purification and vitality in earthly life, would be safely tucked away under his watchful eye, ensuring its readiness for the reunion in the afterlife. His human form symbolized the essence of humanity, the very consciousness that needed to be preserved. Next, we find Happy, depicted with the head of a baboon. Happy was the protector of the lungs, those vital bellows that drew breath and life into the body. The baboon, an intelligent and sometimes boisterous creature of the desert, perhaps symbolized the rhythmic, essential function of breathing, or its ability to ward off evil, ensuring the deceased could breathe freely once more in the lands beyond. Then came Duamutef, the jackal-headed guardian. His domain was the stomach, the organ that processed nourishment and sustenance. The jackal, so often associated with Anubis and the funerary rites, was a fierce protector, guarding against any harm that might befall the deceased's ability to eat and assimilate food in the afterlife, ensuring eternal sustenance. Finally, there was Kabe Sinuf, whose elegant head took the form of a falcon. He was the protector of the intestines, those winding pathways of the inner body. The falcon, a creature of the sky and often a symbol of Horus himself, perhaps represented the clarity and swiftness of passing through the underworld, and the intricate, delicate balance of the internal self. These 4 jars, each a distinct personality, would be carefully placed within the burial chamber, often in a special canopic chest, nestled close to the sarcophagus of the deceased. Their presence was a powerful statement of belief in the body's ultimate resurrection and the need for all its parts to be intact for the soul to fully thrive in the next life. The serene faces of Imacity, the watchful gaze of Happy, the fierce protection of Duamutef, and the soaring spirit of Chebesenuef all contributed to a deep sense of security, a quiet promise that the journey ahead, though fraught with peril, would ultimately lead to wholeness and eternal peace. The cool stone of the jars, the ancient sense of the preserved organs, and the silent vigil of the guardians created a profound sense of sanctity, a testament to the Egyptian reverence for every aspect of life and death. As the wrapped mummy lay silent, its internal organs carefully stored within their canopic guardians, there remained one final, essential preparation for the perilous journey ahead: the provision of a map, a guide, a shield against the unknown terrors of the underworld. This was not a single cohesive volume in the modern sense, but a personalized collection of spells, hymns, and instructions, meticulously inscribed onto papyrus scrolls, linen shrouds, or even the very walls of the tomb itself. We know it today as Divan Suvin's Book of the Dead, though the Egyptians themselves referred to it more prosaically as the spells of coming forth by day, or the book of emerging forth into the light. Imagine the papyrus itself, a delicate, brittle scroll, perhaps a meter or more in length when unfurled, its surface a pale, earthy beige. The ink, often a rich, deep black for the text, and vibrant reds, blues, and yellows for the illustrations, would have been applied with practiced hands, using fine reed brushes. The subtle, dry rustle of the papyrus as it was unrolled would have been a familiar sound in the scribe's workshop, a quiet prelude to the profound wisdom contained within its fibers. Each collection was unique, tailored to the individual's status, wealth, and sometimes even their particular fears or hopes for the afterlife. A wealthy noble might commission a lavish scroll, adorned with intricate vignettes depicting their journey, while a simpler person might have a few essential spells inscribed on a linen fragment wrapped with their mummy. The purpose of Saivind, the Book of the Dead, was profoundly practical: to equip the deceased with the knowledge and power needed to navigate the treacherous landscape of the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. It was a spiritual survival guide, a compendium of passwords, transformations, and protective incantations. Imagine the soul having departed its earthly vessel, finding itself adrift in a strange and often terrifying realm. Here, it would encounter monstrous guardians, cryptic gates, and deceptive pathways. Without the correct words, the precise rituals, or the knowledge of which form to take at a given moment, the soul risked being lost, devoured, or trapped in eternal darkness. The spells covered a vast array of challenges. There were spells to open the mouth, to restore the senses, to ensure the heart would not betray the deceased during the judgment, and to allow free movement within the tomb. There were incantations to ward off serpents and crocodiles, to transform into a lotus, a falcon, or a golden serpent, granting the soul mobility and power. Other spells were designed to help the deceased remember their own name, a crucial piece of identity in a realm where forgotten names meant oblivion. Still others were intricate maps, guiding the soul through specific sections of the underworld, past fire-breathing demons and lakes of flame, towards the verdant fields of Aru, the Egyptian paradise. One in particular type of spell, often accompanied by a detailed illustration, depicted the final, most crucial test, the weighing of the heart. While the actual judgment ceremony would take place in the divine presence of Osiris, the spell served as a reminder, a preparation for this ultimate moral reckoning. The papyrus, with its vibrant imagery, would show the deceased standing before the great gods, their heart on one pan of the scales, balanced against the feather of Makat, goddess of truth and cosmic order. The words on the scroll would empower the deceased to speak truthfully, to assert their innocence, and to ensure their heart remained light and pure. The silent power of these scrolls, laid beside the mummy or inscribed upon the tomb walls, was immeasurable. They were not merely texts to be read, but living entities, imbued with the sacred utterance, the Thodi Haka, or magic of the gods themselves. As the papyrus lay, unfurled or carefully rolled, its ancient pigments whispering tales of transformation and triumph, it offered a profound sense of comfort and assurance. It was a promise that even in the face of death's ultimate unknown, the ancient Egyptians had meticulously prepared a path, a beacon of light for the soul's enduring journey into the boundless expanse of eternity. The faint scent of ancient papyrus and ink, the quiet power of inscribed hieroglyphs, all spoke of an unwavering belief that death was not an end, but merely a doorway through which, with the right guidance, one could truly come forth by day. The journey through the Duat, the shadowy realm of the dead, culminates in perhaps the most solemn and pivotal moment for the deceased. You, or rather, the essence of who you were, stands before a grand tribunal, a court of divine justice unlike any earthly court you knew. This is the Sudi weighing of the heart, the ultimate moral interrogation, where the core core of your being is put to the test, determining your fate in the sprawling landscapes of eternity. Imagine a vast, silent hall. Its ceiling is a deep, cosmic blue, speckled with golden stars that seem to shimmer with the wisdom of countless eons. Hieroglyphs, like silent witnesses, adorn the polished stone walls, depicting scenes of passage, judgment, and rebirth. In the center of this cosmic chamber stands a colossal set of scales, exquisitely crafted, gleaming with the soft ethereal light that permeates this realm. These are no ordinary scales. They are the scales of truth and justice, meticulously balanced, waiting for the weight of a soul. To one side of the scales, often depicted standing tall and majestic, is Anubis, the jackal-headed god, the keeper of necropolises and guide of souls. His gaze is steady, unflinching, as he prepares the sacred instrument. On the other side, often present, is Thoth, the ibis-headed god, the scribe of the gods, eternally poised with his stylus and papyrus, ready to record every detail, every nuance of the judgment. He is the keeper of knowledge, the arbiter of disputes, and his presence ensures that the truth, unvarnished and absolute, will be known. And then before the scales stands Osiris himself, the lord of the underworld enthroned in his regal attire, his green skin a symbol of rebirth and resurrection. He watches, silent and omniscient, surrounded by the 42 divine judges, each representing a specific transgression the deceased must deny committing. This is the moment of your final confession, often referred to as the negative confession, where you declare your innocence against a litany of earthly sins. I have not stolen. I have not killed. I have not lied. I have not caused pain. The words hang in the air, a final plea, a last affirmation of a life lived, hopefully, in accordance with Mahat. Now the pivotal action. Anubis, with a gentle yet firm hand, takes your heart, Sivan. Not the physical organ as it was in life, but the spiritual heart that Sudi believed to be the seat of intelligence, memory, emotion, and morality. This vital essence, the very record of your existence, is placed carefully onto one pan of the great scales. You can almost feel the quiet reverence in the hall as this profound symbol of your life's journey settles into its place. On the other pan, Anubis places something impossibly light, yet immeasurably significant, a single, perfect feather. This is the feather of Maat, the goddess of truth, justice, harmony, and cosmic order. This feather is pristine, delicate, yet it embodies the entire universal law. Its weight is absolute zero, representing perfect balance, perfect truth. The hall holds its breath. There is no sound but the faintest creak of the scales as they begin to settle. The tension in this moment is palpable even across millennia. Will your heart be lighter than the feather? Will it be equal? Or will it be burdened by the accumulated weight of misdeeds, lies, and moral failings? If your heart, the true essence of your character, is light, if it balances perfectly with the feather of Maat, or is even lighter, then you have passed the ultimate test. Your life was lived truthfully, justly, harmoniously. A collective sigh, almost imperceptible, seems to sweep through the divine court. Osiris, with a nod of approval, grants you passage to the Aru, the field of reeds, the blissful paradise of the afterlife, where you will live eternally in peace, tending to fields of abundance, reunited with loved ones. But what if the heart is heavy? What if it tips the scales? Weighed down by the burdens of unrighteousness, cruelty, or deception? There, lurking by the foot of the scales, is a terrifying creature, a monstrous devourer known as Ammit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. Ammit is the embodiment of divine retribution. Her maw is perpetually open, waiting. If your heart is found wanting, if it is heavier than the feather of Ma'at, Ammit will instantly devour it. For the ancient Egyptians, this was the ultimate annihilation, a second death far more terrifying than the first. To have your Thudiapiab consumed by Ammit meant eternal oblivion, a complete cessation of existence with no chance of ever reaching the Aru. It was a fate worse than any physical torment. The entire process, from the majestic setting to the presence of the gods, the quiet placement of the heart, the delicate balance of the feather, and the looming threat of Ammit, served as a powerful moral compass for the living. It encouraged a life lived with integrity, truth, and respect for others, a constant awareness that every action, every thought, carried weight, not just in this life, but for the eternity to come. The silence of that great hall, the stillness of the scales, and the quiet expectation of the divine judges are etched into the very fabric of the ancient Egyptian worldview, a testament to their profound belief in justice and the soul's enduring journey. Asterisk, 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 having successfully navigated the perilous pathways of the Duat, and hopefully passed the ultimate moral scrutiny of the weighing of the heart, the deceased stands on the precipice of true rebirth. But even a pure soul, resting peacefully within its perfectly preserved mummy, requires a final vital spark to truly awaken in the afterlife. This is where the soothing of the mouth ceremony comes in, a profoundly symbolic ritual designed to restore the senses and faculties to the inert form, allowing the spirit to fully perceive and interact with its new eternal reality. Imagine the sacred space, perhaps a dedicated tent near the tomb or the burial chamber itself, permeated with the scent of incense, myrrh incense wafting gently, cleansing the air, preparing it for a divine connection. The mummy, carefully prepared and intricately wrapped, lies solemnly, awaiting its final awakening. Around it, priests, adorned in their ritualistic vestments, some wearing the mask of Anubis, gather in a circle, their movements precise, deliberate, each step imbued with centuries of tradition. The ceremony itself is a delicate dance between the physical and the spiritual. Its core purpose is to symbolically reanimate the senses that the mummification process had necessarily silenced. In life, the body tasted, spoke, saw, heard, and breathed. In death, these functions were suspended. The opening of the mouth ceremony sought to bridge that gap, to ensure that the Sun Ka Tien Baba, the soul and personality Thud, could once again fully inhabit and utilize their eternal vessel. The lead priest, often known as the Tizamine priest, approaches the mummy with a series of specially crafted ritual tools. These tools are not meant for actual cutting or incision. Their purpose is purely symbolic, their touch representing the transference of divine energy. One such tool is often referred to as the adze, a distinctive instrument resembling a carpenter's adze, or a peculiar hook, crafted from precious materials, perhaps even meteoric iron, a material believed to have fallen from the heavens, and thus imbued with celestial power. The adze is central to the ritual. With meticulous care, the Sempan priest begins to perform a series of gestures, each one representing the restoration of a specific faculty. The adze, or a similar blade-like instrument, is brought to the mummy's mouth. It doesn't physically open the lips, which are often sealed by resin, but rather it touches the area, often in a series of precise, rhythmic taps or sweeping motions. This symbolic gesture, accompanied by ancient incantations and prayers, is believed to reactivate the mouth. The power of speech, of expressing oneself, of uttering the sacred spells for navigating the afterlife, is returned. The ability to eat and drink the offerings left for the deceased, to sustain oneself in the land of the dead, is also restored through this act. Imagine the quiet murmur of the prayers, the subtle glint of the adze in the flickering lamplight, and the profound hope invested in each touch. Following the mouth, the priest would extend the ceremony to other vital senses. The mummy's eyes, hidden beneath linen bandages, would be symbolically opened by touching the appropriate areas with the ritual implements. This act was meant to grant the deceased the power of sight once more, to behold the glories of the Aru, to recognize beloved gods and family members, and to perceive the eternal landscapes that awaited them. Similarly, the ears would be touched, restoring the faculty of hearing, allowing the soul to listen to the divine hymns, the celestial music, and the voices of those who dwell in the afterlife. Even the nose, the pathway for breath, might receive a symbolic touch, ensuring the deceased could once again draw the breath of life, albeit a spiritual one, in the eternal realm. The ritual was often extended, touching the hands and feet of the mummy as well, symbolizing the restoration of movement and action. The deceased would be able to walk, to perform tasks, to engage fully in the eternal existence. Each touch, each prayer, each waft of incense was a thread in the intricate tapestry of rebirth, slowly knitting together the silent, inert form with its vibrant, awakened soul. Beyond the physical gestures, the ceremony involved powerful verbal components. Priests would recite ancient spells, hymns, and prayers, invoking various gods than Horus, Anubis, Thoth, and others Stive, and others Stuti to lend their divine power to the reanimation. The words themselves were believed to be potent, carrying the magic necessary to bridge the gap between death and a new form of life. Sometimes ritualistic offerings of food and drink would be presented to the mummy, a tangible representation of the sustenance the awakened soul would now be able to partake in. The opening of the mouth ceremony wasn't just a final rite, it was the ultimate act of loving care and profound belief. It underscored the ancient Egyptian conviction that physical death was not an end, but a transformation, a transition into another, equally vibrant plane of existence. By performing this intricate ritual, the living ensured that their beloved departed would embark on their eternal journey fully equipped, with all their senses and faculties restored, ready to embrace the boundless promise of the afterlife. The quiet determination of the priests, the ancient wisdom embedded in their tools and words, all combined to create a powerful, comforting send-off, a final bridge from the transient world to the eternal. Asterisk, 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 and so we bring our long journey through the sands of time to a gentle close. From the vibrant black soil of Kemet to the silent red expanse of Deshret, we've wandered through a civilization built on the unshakable belief in eternity. We've watched the Nile flood, felt the rhythmic beat of ancient calendars, and stood in the shadow of divine pharaohs. We've traced the sacred hieroglyphs, pondered curses, and understood the simple, profound daily rhythm of life along the great river. We've marveled at monuments that defy millennia and witnessed the soul's arduous yet hopeful journey into the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians, in their quiet pursuit of the everlasting, left us with more than just grand pyramids and golden treasures. They left us with a deep, contemplative understanding of life, death, and the intricate connections between the human and the divine. Their world was a tapestry woven with starlight, river silt, and the boundless human longing for something more. As you reflect on these stories, on the careful balance of the heart, the meticulous rituals of awakening, and the endless expanse of the duat, consider the quiet persistence of their spirit. They saw cycles in the stars, in the river, and in life itself 30, a constant ebb and flow, death not as an end, but as a necessary step towards a new beginning. Even now, beneath the shifting dunes of the vast Egyptian desert, countless secrets remain unwritten, undisturbed. Perhaps whole cities lie buried, undiscovered tombs await their quiet revelation, and ancient papyri guard knowledge we can only dream of. The land holds its breath, just as it did thousands of years ago, promising more wonders, more insights into this magnificent civilization. The desert wind continues to whisper stories. If only we learn to listen. Let the images of the quiet Nile at twilight, the serene faces of the gods, and the gentle touch of a ceremonial ad settle softly in your mind. Imagine the vast, star-filled sky over the desert, unchanging for millennia, observing all the tales we've shared tonight. Feel the gentle weight of history, not as a burden, but as a comforting blanket of stories. As the echoes of ancient chants fade, and the scent of phantom incense gently disperses, Allow yourself to drift into a state of profound peace. The pursuit of eternity, the careful balance of justice, the hope for rebirth 30. These are timeless threads that connect us all, across all ages and all lands. Let these ancient mysteries lull you, guiding your mind to a place of quiet contemplation and deep relaxation. The stars above Egypt watch over you, just as they watched over the Pharaohs. Allow their gentle light to guide your thoughts to stillness. The sands of time continue their endless journey, but for now you can rest. Breathe deeply, softly. Let your own mind become as still and vast as the desert night. The secrets will wait. The river will flow. And you, my friend, can now simply sleep. Good night.